The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the Martinez family's backyard in San Antonio, Texas. The smell of mesquite smoke from the barbecue mixed with the aroma of Maria's famous corn tortillas, creating an atmosphere that should have felt like home. But for Staff Sergeant Elena Martinez, standing at the edge of the patio in her civilian clothes, the familiar scene felt more like a battlefield. "So, Elena," her cousin Miguel called out from his spot by the cooler, his voice carrying that particular tone she'd learned to recognize over the years, half joking, fully condescending. "Still playing soldier? When are you going to get a real job?" The conversation around the picnic tables quieted slightly. Elena felt the weight of 20 pairs of eyes shifting between her and Miguel. She took a slow sip of her iced tea, buying time, feeling the condensation from the glass against her palm. "I have a real job, Miguel," she said evenly. "I serve in the United States Army." "Yeah, but I mean a real job," Miguel pressed, gesturing with his beer bottle. "Like mine. Software development. 6 figures. Work from home. That's the American dream, Prima. Not whatever it is you do. Folding blankets. Marching around?" Laughter rippled through the group. Elena's jaw tightened, but she maintained her composure, a skill honed through years of military discipline. Her younger sister, Sophia, shot her a sympathetic look from across the yard where she was helping their mother with the food. "Miguel's got a point," Uncle Roberto chimed in, settling his considerable bulk deeper into his lawn chair. "I mean, what kind of future is there in the military for a woman? It's been, 8 years now? And you're still just a—" He waved his hand dismissively. "What do they call it? Sergeant?" "Staff sergeant," Elena corrected quietly. "Same difference," Roberto shrugged. "My daughter Carmen, she's younger than you and already managing a whole department at the bank. 20 people under her. That's success." Elena's mother, Rosa, emerged from the kitchen carrying a tray of fresh salsa. Her eyes met Elena's briefly, and in them, Elena saw the same mixture of concern and disappointment that had been there since she'd first announced her decision to enlist. "Elena knows we just want what's best for her," Rosa said diplomatically, though her tone suggested she agreed with the others. "It's just that, well, you're 32 now. Mija, when are you going to settle down? Give me grandchildren? This soldier thing, it was supposed to be temporary, no?" "Mom," Elena started, but was cut off by her father, Carlos, who had been quietly tending the grill. "Let her be, Rosa," he said, though without much conviction. Elena's always been independent. The way he said independent made it sound like a character flaw. "Independent doesn't pay the bills," Aunt Teresa added, fanning herself with a paper plate. "My son David, he just bought his second rental property. 28 years old. That's planning for the future." Elena felt the familiar burn of frustration in her chest. They had no idea what she actually did. The operations she'd been part of, the lives she'd helped save, the intelligence she'd gathered that had prevented attacks on American soil. But most of it was classified, and even if it wasn't, would they understand? Would they care? "I'm doing important work," Elena said, trying to keep her voice level. "Work that matters." Sure, Miguel laughed, taking another swig of his beer. "Very important. So important they can't even pay you enough to buy a decent car. What are you driving now? That 10-year-old Honda?" "It runs fine," Elena replied curtly. "That's not the point," Carmen spoke up from her spot near the pool, examining her manicured nails. "The point is, where's the ambition? Where's the growth? You've been doing the same thing since you were 24. The rest of us are building careers, building families, building wealth. You're just stuck." "I'm not stuck," Elena said, her voice rising slightly despite her efforts to control it. "I'm serving my country. I'm part of something bigger than myself." "Oh, here we go with the patriotic speech." Miguel rolled his eyes. "Look around, Elena. This is America. We're all free to make money, enjoy life. Nobody's attacking us. What exactly are you protecting us from? The terrorists hiding in the Walmart?" More laughter. Elena's hands clenched at her sides. "You have no idea what's out there," she said quietly. "The threats that—" "Threats?" Roberto interrupted, chuckling. "The only threat I see is you threatening to stay single forever. What man wants to date a woman who might get shipped off to God knows where at any moment?" "Roberto," Rosa scolded half-heartedly. But Elena caught several family members nodding in agreement. "It's true, though," Teresa added. "Poor Elena. Pretty girl like you, wasting your best years playing G.I. Jane." Elena felt her carefully maintained composure beginning to crack. 8 years of service. 8 years of sacrifice, of missed holidays, of sleeping in tents in 120-degree heat, of watching friends die, of carrying burdens she couldn't share. And to them, she was just playing dress-up. I've tried to explain, Elena said, her voice tight. The training I've received, the responsibility I carry. Training? Miguel snorted. I trained for 2 weeks to get my Microsoft certification. Now I make 3 times what you make. That's smart training. It's not about the money, Elena insisted. Everything's about money, Carmen interjected. That's how the real world works. Not your fantasy military world. The real world, where people have mortgages and retirement plans and… I have a retirement plan, Elena shot back. Yeah, what, after 20 years? If you don't get blown up first? Miguel's joke fell flat, but he pressed on. Come on, Elena. Admit it. You made a mistake. It's not too late to get out, go back to school, get a real degree. I have a degree, Elena said through gritted teeth. 2, actually. The army paid for them. Online degrees don't count, Carmen said dismissively. They're from accredited universities, Elena protested, but she could see she was losing ground. The collective judgment of her family pressed down on her like a physical weight. Mija, her grandmother spoke up from her chair in the shade, her voice gentle but carrying the authority of the family matriarch. We love you, but we worry. This path you've chosen, it's not natural for a woman. You should be giving me great-grandchildren, not playing with guns. Elena felt something break inside her. Playing? You think I'm playing? Her voice rose, sharp and clear. Do you know where I was last month? Do you know what I… She stopped herself, classification requirements binding her tongue even in her anger. What? Miguel taunted. What super-secret important thing were you doing? Organizing the supply closet? Leading the jumping jacks? Miguel, that's enough. Sophia finally spoke up, moving to stand beside her sister. Don't defend her. Sophia, their mother said, you at least had the sense to pursue a proper career. A nurse. That's respectable women's work. Mom, Sophia protested, but Rosa continued. What? It's true. You help people. You have regular hours. You'll make a good wife and mother. Elena, she's out there trying to be something she's not. Trying to prove something to… To who? To us? We already love her. She doesn't need to pretend to be a man to get our respect. I'm not pretending to be anything, Elena said, her voice dangerously quiet. I'm a soldier. A damn good one. And whether you believe it or not, whether you respect it or not, I've done things that matter. I've saved lives. I've protected this country. I've… Saved lives? Roberto laughed. What are you, a superhero now? Come on, Elena. Be realistic. You're a woman playing dress-up in a man's world. Whatever little job they give you to make you feel important, it's not real. The real heroes are the men on the front lines, not the diversity hires sitting behind desks. The words hit Elena like a physical blow. Diversity hire. As if her Bronze Star meant nothing. As if the scars she carried, physical and mental, were just participation trophies. You know what? Elena set down her glass with a sharp click. I'm done. I'm done trying to explain myself to people who refuse to listen. I'm done defending my choices to people who think success is measured only in dollars and square footage. And I'm done pretending that your ignorance doesn't hurt. Elena, her mother gasped. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic? Elena laughed bitterly. You want to know what's dramatic? Holding your best friend while she bleeds out in a helicopter? That's dramatic. Making split-second decisions that affect national security? That's dramatic. This? She gestured around the backyard. This is just sad. If it's so important, why can't you tell us about it? Miguel challenged. Convenient excuse. This classified nonsense. Elena stared at him for a long moment. You're right, Miguel. How convenient for me. How nice that I can just make up stories about my pretend important job while you do the real work of… What was it? Building apps? I'm creating solutions that people actually use, Miguel said defensively. Right, solutions. Elena nodded slowly. Well, I create solutions too. The kind that mean people like you get to sit in your comfortable homes, drinking beer and counting your money without worrying about the wolves at the door. What wolves? Carmen scoffed. This isn't a movie, Elena. No, Elena agreed. It's not. In movies, the hero's family actually supports them. An uncomfortable silence fell over the gathering. Elena could feel the weight of their disapproval, their disappointment, their complete inability to understand the life she'd chosen. I should go, she said finally. Elena, don't be like that, her father said weakly. Stay, have some food. No, Dad, I'm tired. I'm tired of defending myself. I'm tired of being the family disappointment, the spinster, the wannabe hero. She looked around at their faces, some guilty, some defiant, most simply unmoved. You know what the worst part is? I've spent 8 years telling myself that what you all think doesn't matter, that the work speaks for itself, but it does matter. It matters that the people I love most in the world think I'm wasting my life. We don't think that, Rosa protested weakly. Yes, you do, Elena said simply. Every family gathering, it's the same thing. When are you getting out? When are you getting married? When are you going to grow up and get a real job? Well, I have news for you. This is my real job. This is my grown-up life. And if you can't respect that, then maybe I need to stop coming to these things. Elena, you're being oversensitive, Roberto said. We're just concerned. No, Elena cut him off. You're not concerned. You're embarrassed. Embarrassed that I don't fit into your neat little box of what success looks like. Embarrassed that you can't brag about me the way you brag about Miguel's salary or Carmen's management position or David's rental properties. She grabbed her keys from the table. You want to know the truth? The real truth? Tomorrow morning, I'm getting on a plane. I'm being deployed somewhere I can't tell you, to do something I can't explain, for reasons you wouldn't understand even if I could share them. And yeah, Miguel, there's a chance I won't come back. There's always that chance. But I go anyway, because that's what service means. That's what sacrifice means. That's what honor means. Elena, Sophia started, reaching for her sister's arm. It's okay, Soph, Elena said softly, squeezing her sister's hand briefly. Take care of them for me, okay? As she walked toward the gate, she heard Miguel's voice one more time. Drama queen. She'll be back next week, acting like nothing happened. Elena paused at the gate, her hand on the latch. For a moment, she considered turning around, considered trying one more time to make them understand. But what was the point? They'd made up their minds about her life, about her choices, about her worth. Staff Sergeant Martinez! The sharp voice made her freeze. She turned to see a figure in dress blues standing at the far end of the yard, having apparently come through the side gate. Major Williams, her commanding officer, here, at her family's barbecue. Sir? Elena's training kicked in, her posture straightening automatically. Sorry to interrupt your family gathering, Major Williams said, his face grave. But there's been a development. We need you back at base immediately. Elena's mind raced, for Williams to come personally, to her family's home. Sir, is this about... Not here. Sergeant, Williams cut her off, his eyes scanning the stunned faces of her family. We'll brief you in transit. The helicopter is inbound. ETA 3 minutes. Helicopter? Rosa's voice was faint. Williams turned to address the family. My apologies for the interruption. Your daughter is needed for a matter of national security. I'm afraid I can't say more. The distant thrum of rotor blades became audible, growing louder by the second. Elena watched her family's faces transform from skepticism to shock as a Black Hawk helicopter appeared over the tree line, circling once before beginning its descent toward the large open area behind the Martinez property. Holy shit, Miguel breathed, his beer bottle slipping from nerveless fingers to shatter on the concrete. The helicopter touched down with practiced precision, its rotor wash flattening the grass and sending paper plates flying. 2 fully geared soldiers jumped out, taking defensive positions. Williams turned to Elena. Sergeant, we need to move. Now. Elena looked back at her family, at their stunned faces, their open mouths, their complete and utter shock. Miguel had gone pale. Roberto's eyes were wide as saucers. Her mother clutched her father's arm. I have to go, Elena said simply. As she jogged toward the helicopter, she heard Carmen's faint voice. Was that real? Elena climbed into the Black Hawk, Williams right behind her. As the helicopter lifted off, she looked down at her family gathering, at the people who had just spent an hour telling her she was wasting her life playing soldier. They weren't laughing anymore. The last thing she saw before the helicopter banked away was Sophia, standing apart from the others, her hand raised in a small wave. At least someone had always believed. As the Martinez house disappeared from view, Elena strapped herself in and turned to Williams. Sir, what's the situation? Operation Nightfall has been moved up, Williams said grimly. The intel you gathered last month, it just went hot. The Secretary of Defense specifically requested you for the response team. Apparently, you're the only one who knows the layout well enough to lead the insertion. Elena nodded, her mind already shifting into operational mode. But a small part of her, the part that was still just Elena from San Antonio, couldn't help but wonder what her family was saying now, standing in that backyard with barbecue smoke still in the air and a Black Hawk's dust settling over their perfect suburban gathering. She'd wanted them to understand. She'd wanted them to see her as more than just the family disappointment, the stubborn daughter who wouldn't settle down. But as the helicopter carried her toward whatever crisis awaited, she realized something. Their understanding wasn't what mattered. Their approval wasn't what defined her worth. She had a job to do, a country to serve, lives to save, and whether they ever truly grasped the weight of that responsibility or not, she would carry it, because that's what real soldiers did, even when nobody was watching, even when nobody believed, especially then. The Black Hawk's interior vibrated with controlled power as it cut through the Texas sky. Elena had switched into full operational mode, her personal concerns locked away in the compartment of her mind reserved for deal with later. Major Williams handed her a tablet, its screen showing classified briefing materials. "Remember the compound in Nuevo Laredo?" Williams asked, his voice raised over the rotor noise. Elena's stomach tightened. "The one from Operation Sandstorm? Sir, Intel said that was abandoned after we—" "Intel was wrong," Williams cut her off. "Satellite imagery from 6 hours ago shows significant activity. The same signatures we tracked before. Martinez, they're planning something big, and it's happening tonight." Elena scrolled through the images, her trained eye catching details that would be meaningless to most. Heat signatures, vehicle patterns, the subtle signs of an operation in its final stages. "How many friendlies do we have on site?" she asked. "None. Border Patrol pulled back after that incident last month. We're blind except for satellite coverage. And that's intermittent." Williams leaned closer. "Elena, I need to be straight with you. This is Black Ops. Officially, we're not there. If something goes wrong, we don't exist," Elena finished. "I understand, sir. Do you?" Williams studied her face. "Because what I'm asking? You'd be leading a team into a situation where backup isn't coming, where the politicians will deny we ever crossed that border, where your family will never know what happened if— My family already doesn't know what I do," Elena said flatly, then caught herself. "Sir." Williams was quiet for a moment. "Rough gathering?" "Nothing new, sir." Elena focused on the tablet. "Who's my team?" "Delta Force. 6 operators. They specifically requested you after reading your report from Sandstorm. You're the only one who's been inside that compound and made it out." Elena nodded, her mind already mapping the layout she'd memorized months ago. Every corridor, every blind spot, every kill zone. The information that had nearly cost her life to obtain. "ETA to base? 20 minutes. The team is already assembled. You'll have 90 minutes to brief them and gear up. The window for insertion is narrow, 0200 to 0230. After that, their operation goes live and we lose any chance of stopping it." Elena checked her watch. 1847 hours. Just over 7 hours to prevent— What? The intel suggested a coordinated attack, but the target remained unclear. All they knew was that American lives were at stake. "Sir," she said slowly, "my family saw you. They saw the helicopter. When this is over, we'll handle it," Williams assured her. "Official story is a training exercise, emergency preparedness drill. Your family will be contacted and told you're participating in a routine operation." Routine. Elena almost laughed. Nothing about her job had been routine since the day she'd raised her right hand and sworn the oath. The helicopter banked sharply, and through the window, Elena caught sight of Fort Hood sprawling below. Home base. As much of a home as anywhere had been for the past 8 years. "Martinez," Williams said as they began their descent, "I need to ask you something, and I need an honest answer." "Sir? Are you good? I mean really good." "Good? That scene back there, with your family—" "I'm good, sir," Elena said firmly. "Better than good. I'm motivated." Williams nodded slowly. "Channel it. Use it. But don't let it make you reckless. The team needs Staff Sergeant Martinez, not the family disappointment looking to prove a point," Elena finished. "Understood, sir." The Black Hawk touched down on the restricted tarmac, and Elena was moving before the skids fully settled. Muscle memory carried her through the familiar spaces. The briefing room, the armory, the tactical operations center where 6 of the most elite soldiers in the United States military waited. "Gentlemen," Williams announced as they entered, "Staff Sergeant Elena Martinez. She'll be your guide tonight." Elena scanned the faces, weathered, professional, skeptical. She recognized the look. Delta operators were the best of the best, used to working with their own. An outsider, especially a female outsider, would need to prove herself fast. Staff Sergeant, the team leader, a mountain of a man with Sergeant Major insignia, stepped forward. "Morrison, heard you've been inside our target. 14 weeks ago," Elena confirmed. "Undercover. Gathered intel on their operations before my cover was blown." "How'd you get out?" another operator asked, his tone carefully neutral. "Through the sewage system," Elena replied matter-of-factly. 2 miles of pipes. Came up in a processing plant on the Mexican side." A few eyebrows raised. Morrison's expression shifted slightly. still skeptical, but now tinged with interest. "Show us," he said simply. Elena moved to the digital display table, pulling up the compound's schematics. Her fingers flew across the interface, marking entry points, defensive positions, likely patrol routes. "Primary structure here," she began, her voice taking on the crisp, professional tone of a briefing. 3 stories, reinforced concrete. Main operations center is in the basement. That's where they'll be coordinating from. Second floor is barracks. Ground floor is common areas and armory. Guards? Morrison asked. Minimum 12, maximum 25, depending on operation status. They rotate on a 6-hour schedule, but the patterns are deliberately random. No predictable gaps. Elena marked positions. Overwatch positions here and here, interlocking fields of fire. Anyone approaching from the obvious routes gets cut down before they reach the wall. "So we don't use obvious routes," another operator said. "Exactly." Elena pulled up another layer. "Storm drainage system runs under the northwest corner. It's how I initially got in. Tight quarters, single file, but it puts you inside the compound walls and under their primary sight lines. They won't have sealed it after your escape?" Elena smiled grimly. "They think they did, but I sabotaged their work on my way out, made it look solid from casual inspection, but the grating will pull free with the right pressure, unless they've done a complete renovation in the last 3 months. Satellite shows no construction activity," Morrison confirmed. "Continue." For the next hour, Elena walked them through every detail: the compound's electrical system, the communication setup, the hidden escape tunnel in the commander's office that not even most of the guards knew about, personal details about key targets, who was left-handed, who had a bad knee, who always smoked on the southeast balcony at midnight. "How the hell do you know all this?" one of the younger operators finally asked. Elena met his gaze steadily. "Because I spent 2 months serving them food, cleaning their weapons, and pretending to be a cartel-connected arms dealer's assistant. I speak 4 languages fluently, and they didn't know I understood their dialect of Arabic. People say things around the help they'd never say otherwise." "And when your cover was blown?" Morrison pressed. "I killed 2 guards with a kitchen knife and spent 6 hours crawling through human waste to escape," Elena said flatly. "Sir." The room was quiet for a moment. "All right," Morrison said finally. "You'll take point on the insertion, get us in clean, guide us to the operations center. We handle the wet work. You good with that?" Elena nodded. "My job is to get you in and get you to the target. Your job is to neutralize it. Clean division of labor." "What about extraction?" another operator asked. "Different route." Elena pulled up another map. "Once the shooting starts, they'll seal the obvious exits. But there's a maintenance access that leads to the motor pool. We commandeer vehicles, punch through the gate here." She marked a spot, "and make for the extraction point 6 clicks north. Little Bird pickup, assuming we maintain the timeline." Morrison studied the plan, then looked at his team. Silent communication passed between them, the kind born from years of operating together in the world's most dangerous places. "We'll run it," he decided. "But Sergeant Martinez, let me be clear. You're guide and technical specialist. When the bullets start flying, you stay behind cover and let us work. Clear?" "Crystal, Sergeant Major." "Good. Gear up." The armory was a cathedral of lethal precision. Elena moved through the familiar ritual of preparation: plate carrier, magazines, sidearm, backup blade. Every piece of equipment checked, double-checked, positioned exactly where muscle memory would find it in the dark. "Martinez." She turned to find Morrison watching her. "That thing with your family. Williams mentioned it. You solid?" Elena's hands never paused in their preparations. "Would it matter if I wasn't?" "It would to my team. I need to know your head's in the game, not back in that backyard." Elena slammed a magazine home, the metallic click sharp in the enclosed space. "Sergeant Major, my family thinks I'm playing soldier. They think I'm wasting my life on some juvenile fantasy of being important. They have no idea that right now, at this moment, what we do in the next 6 hours might be the difference between 1,000 Americans waking up tomorrow or not." She turned to face him fully. "So yes, I'm solid. Because while they're probably still standing around that barbecue trying to figure out what just happened, I'm here, doing the job they can't even imagine exists. And when this is over, when we've stopped whatever's planned, they still won't know. I'll go back to being disappointing Elena who can't hold down a real job. And that's fine, because I'll know, we'll know, and that's enough." Morrison studied her for a long moment, then nodded. "Good enough for me." He turned to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, Martinez, I've read your file. Bronze Star with Valor, Purple Heart, commendations I can't even pronounce. Your family doesn't know what they've got. Thank you, Sergeant Major." "Don't thank me yet." Thank me when we're all back drinking bad coffee and filing after action reports. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of final preparations, intelligence updates, and contingency planning. Elena found herself falling into the familiar rhythm of pre-mission focus. The personal concerns, the family drama, the constant need to justify her choices, all of it faded into background noise. At Oro 1:30, they loaded into the unmarked vehicles that would take them to the border. Elena sat wedged between two Delta operators, her gear pressing against her sides. The men around her were quiet, each lost in their own pre-mission rituals. 2 minutes to drop point, the driver announced. Elena checked her equipment one final time. In a few minutes, she'd be leading 6 of America's most elite warriors into hostile territory. No backup, no recognition, no margin for error. Her phone, powered down and secured in her gear bag, held 17 missed calls from family members. She could imagine the conversations happening back in San Antonio, the questions, the disbelief, the gradual realization that maybe, just maybe, Elena's job was exactly what she'd been trying to tell them it was. But that was for later. For now, there was only the mission. 30 seconds. Elena pulled on her night vision goggles, the world shifting into shades of green. Around her, the Delta team did the same, weapons coming up, safeties off. Martinez! Morrison's voice in her earpiece. You're on point. Get us in. The vehicle stopped. Doors opened silently. 7 shadows melted into the desert night. Elena moved forward, every step calculated, every sense alert. Behind her, 6 of the deadliest men on the planet followed her lead. Ahead, the compound waited, its occupants unaware that death was approaching on silent feet. This was her world. Not the family barbecue with its petty judgments and narrow definitions of success. Not the endless questions about when she'd get a real job, or find a husband, or do something meaningful with her life. This, the danger, the purpose, the absolute clarity of mission, this was where she belonged. And in approximately 47 minutes, the men in that compound would learn exactly how real her job was. The drainage grate appeared exactly where she'd left it, concealed by desert scrub and shadow. Elena knelt, running her fingers along the edges until she found the weak points she'd created months ago. Entry point confirmed, she whispered into her mic. Beginning insertion. One by one, they slipped into the darkness below. Elena led the way, her memory guiding them through the claustrophobic passages. The smell was overwhelming, even through the filtration masks, but nobody complained. Delta operators had been through worse. 50 meters to emergence point, Elena reported. Weapons tight until we clear the tunnel. They moved like a single organism, silent and deadly. Above them, Elena could hear occasional footsteps, guards walking their routes. Unaware of the serpent sliding beneath their feet, the exit grate appeared in her night vision, a geometric pattern of bars and shadow. Elena raised a closed fist, and the team froze. She listened, counting heartbeats, waiting for the gap in coverage she'd memorized. Guard passing, she breathed. 10 seconds. The footsteps faded. Elena moved, pushing up on the grate with steady pressure. It lifted free, just as she'd designed it to. We're in, she announced, pulling herself up into a utility closet. One by one, the team emerged behind her. Morrison tapped her shoulder. Outstanding work. Martinez, now get us to the operations center. Elena cracked the door, scanning the corridor beyond. Empty, just as expected. The guards felt safe here, complacent in their routines. They were about to learn how fatal complacency could be. Moving, she whispered, and stepped into the corridor. The compound's interior was exactly as she remembered. Sterile concrete walls, industrial lighting, the faint smell of gun oil and cigarette smoke. Every detail was burned into her memory from those terrible weeks undercover. They moved through the building like ghosts, Elena guiding them past guard posts and cameras with precise timing. Twice they had to freeze as unexpected patrols passed, but each time Elena had them positioned in blind spots she'd identified months ago. Operations Center is through that door, she finally whispered, indicating a reinforced steel barrier at the end of a corridor. Electronic lock, but I know the override code unless they've changed it. And if they have? Morrison asked.